Back in 2005, Bentley released the Flying Spur, a four-door version of its Continental that was based on the Volkswagen Phaeton. Now fast forward to 2020 and the Flying Spur is now in its third generation. It's dropped the Continental name, but it has gained oh so much more. You see, this Flying Spur has a very different job to do than the original. Because the Mulsanne, Bentley's former flagship sedan, is now gone, this Flying Spur is now the biggest and most expensive and most luxurious Bentley that you can buy. So if you want to chauffeur some people in the back seat, this is going to be your Bentley of choice. Now I've borrowed this Bentley for a very, very special occasion that we're going to show later on in the video, but for now, let's see what the Flying Spur is all about. So let's start off with an exterior walk-around of the 2020 Flying Spur, where Bentley has really kind of taken the Porsche approach to redesigning this vehicle. They've made it look very familiar to the last generation model, but if you look at the details, you're going to tell that this is quite different indeed. Now the color we have is perfect for the task that I'm going to be using this vehicle for at the end of the video. It's called Ice. It's this very gorgeous, very metallic, very flat white. I really love how it looks, especially with all the black accenting. You're going to notice there is not an ounce of chrome on this car, but of course Bentleys are highly customizable. So you see here we have this big black grille. You can get that in chrome if you want. There's so many different ways to do this car. We've got the quad headlights here. They are absolutely gorgeous. They look like a crystal champagne flute glistening in the night. They're diamond cut, absolutely gorgeous. And for the first time ever, the Bentley has a retractable hood ornament. It's the Flying Bee. It's literally a bee with wings, and I love how the wings literally light up at night. That's really cool. And when you lock the vehicle, that is going to go ahead and hide away. I also love this embellishment line going across the hood. It really makes you feel like you're driving something from like the 1930s. Now we've got the 22-inch wheels. 21s come standard, but I think the 22s are definitely something you should opt for. This is such a long vehicle going down the side. We've got our W12 badge here and our little B things here on the side. Now coming around the back of this vehicle, you're going to see we have the little Union Jack with the number 1. That's to let us know that we have a first edition model. We also have some first edition kick plates on the inside when you get in. And back here, we've just got our simple taillights, which at night you can see they kind of illuminate like a bee. We've got our black exhaust finishers and of course our winged bee with Bentley written across the back. It is very elegant, very simplistic, and very beautiful. So now that we've checked out the exterior, the magnificent exterior of the Flying Spur, let's see where the magic really happens, and that is here on the interior, where I'm going to go ahead and say it. This is unequivocally the best cabin that you can buy today. There is no interior that I've ever been in that feels more premium, more special, more like an event than this. Everything is either leather or real wood or metal, knurled metal at that. You have all of these controls that have this beautiful like diamondy finish on it. It just looks spectacular. It glistens in the sun. It looks really cool at night. All of the controls, from the volume knob to the air vents to the starter button to the drive modes, every single thing you touch in here feels expensive. It feels like the most premium thing you're ever going to touch. I can't believe how amazing Bentley has made this cabin here. Now, the controls are sort of interestingly laid out. You have a lot of your climate controls down here on the center console rather than up here where they usually are in a normal car. So you have things like the temperature controls. You twist those, oh, they're knurled, and just twisting everything feels so amazing. Everything has such a tactile feel to it. Now that doubles as your fan speed controller as well. You just push this little fan button, and now you can adjust the fan speed independent on each side. So I can have my fans blasting and the passenger can have their fan on the lowest speed if they don't want so much air coming to them. Now down here we also have some controls for our blinds, including the two sunroofs, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later when we get into the back. We have our engine stop start button down here. It's surrounded by a drive mode controller. You have Bentley mode, which is going to be your default drive mode that sort of blends comfort and sport in a really nice way. You can also go into comfort mode, which is going to soften up everything even further, and you do have a custom mode that allows you to set the settings however way you want it. And you do have a sport mode that's going to tighten up the suspension, put the drivetrain into maximum attack. That is pretty fun as well to drive around in. So now let's talk a little bit about the technology, because we do have quite a bit of it here. We have a couple specifications here. So we have the first edition, which is the first 12 months of production, and you do get a lot with that. So you get the city specification. That's how Bentley calls their packages, specifications. So that's going to get you the traffic sign recognition up here in the center console, pedestrian detection, reverse cross traffic alert, auto dimming mirrors, and the hands-free trunk. So these are a lot of things, you know, reverse traffic alert that you get on like sort of mainstream cars. They are optional here, but we do have pretty much all of the stuff you could really want on here. So we do have digital display here instead of analog gauges. You might recognize this. It's basically a fancier version of what you'll get on a Volkswagen or Audi product with their virtual gauges, and they look great. I love the sort of tan that they used on the gauges here. They really do look and feel premium. You can also put your map up there, and if I push this little view button, it'll extend it, and now I have pretty much a full screen map. Now Bentley doesn't let you get rid of the speedometer like they do in some Volkswagen and Audi products. I guess Bentley just wants the speedometer to be prominent, and they don't want you to be able to get rid of that, but it is still a large enough map, at least in my mind, and you can make that 3D satellite maps too, which is really cool. Now we have the 12.3 inch display. Now this is going to come standard on all Flying Spur models. It's a touch screen. It's actually really easy to use. This is the home display. So you have sort of your GPS here, you have your Bluetooth and audio settings here, and then you can switch between weather, and you can actually pull up news on it, which is pretty cool, and it actually loads really quickly. So you get into a situation a lot of the times with these exotic vehicles like Aston Martin, Rolls-Royce, and Bentley, where the technology is actually lagging way behind what you'll see on a lot of mainstream cars, but not here. This technology is actually really quick. It's really responsive. It looks high resolution. We've got so many toys here. We've got the head-up display. We've got the night vision feature here on this. I can't show it to you because unfortunately it's not nighttime, but it looks really cool. It pops up here on the center display. You can control all of your climate and things like that here on this screen as well. It's very fast, very snappy, very responsive. I do like this as well. It is tied to a NAME audio system. Now the base system is a Bowers & Wilkins that has, I think, 16 speakers, but we have the upgraded sound system. 21 speakers powering 2,200 watts. Now that is a standalone option. I would definitely opt for it. It is fantastic. Now this is a lot of technology, and it's a little bit overwhelming. It's pretty simple to use, but there are a ton of menus here, a ton of settings. You can control your mood lighting on here as well. Now, if you ever find that this is just a little too overwhelming and you don't want the screen anymore, Bentley has a solution for you. This is called the Bentley rotating display, and here's how it works. If I push this screen button, watch this. Oh, how cool is that? I feel like James Bond every time I push that button. Now we have just simple gauges. We have our outside air temperature, which even has a little snowflake for when it gets into freezing temperatures. We have a compass, and then we have a chronograph, which is like a stopwatch sort of thing. Really cool. I love the function on this. And if you don't even want that, if you just hold the screen button, now it'll switch to a wood veneer. So just a plain, nothing, simple, zero distraction display. I think it looks absolutely brilliant. And now I want to talk to you a little bit more about some of the other comfort things that we have here. We have what's called the Mulliner driver specification that comes as part of the first edition. That's going to get you this beautiful three-dimensional diamond quilting on the stitches. It's a must-have. It's fantastic. You also get embroidered Bentley logos on the seats. You get the sports pedals. You get a really cool fuel filler cap that is really cool. I couldn't believe that this car has like such a specific fuel filler cap. We also have the comfort seat package, which gives you the massaging. Oh my gosh, this is some of the best massaging I've ever got in a car. These seats are absolutely wonderful. They hold you in well. They have so much adjustment, and the massage is fantastic. And this may be a Bentley after all, so you're maybe not considering it to be the most practical vehicle, but we are still going to give it a CarBuzz cup holder and practicality index score. So I've got this little door here. I just push it. That's going to reveal my 2 cup holders. They are fantastic cup holders. Bentley really knows how to do these well. They have these spring-loaded adjustments, hold my Yeti in perfectly. We also have more storage than you'd expect. A huge bin here in front of the shifter, plus a little bit of storage here. So I'm going to be giving the Flying Spur a 4 out of 5. Now the Flying Spur takes over for the Mulsanne as Bentley's flagship sedan, which means you might want to use the back seat quite frequently. Now, whereas Rolls-Royces are very often chauffeur driven, Bentley says that its customers prefer to drive the Flying Spur, but they typically, more often than not, have at least one passenger here in the back, and that's going to come in handy a little later on, which is why I booked this specific vehicle this week. Remember that as we get towards the end of the video. Now the back seat here is outstanding. This is such a long wheelbase vehicle. I have just under 43 inches of legroom. I can adjust this front passenger seat from back here to give myself more legroom, but you can see I can sprawl out back here so much. We actually have adjustments on both sides of these seats, so you can see here on the door I can go ahead and slide the seat so I can go ahead and recline myself a lot more. That is fantastic. We don't even have all of the possible toys back here. You can get like picnic tables, you can get kind of a big center console back here, you can even get a refrigerator here in the middle with some mounted champagne flutes. So we don't even have all of that. We just have some standard USBs and a 12-volt outlet with some cup holders back here, which, trust me, I'm not complaining. This is still a very, very special place to sit. But the thing that is the most special comes right here. We have this Bentley tablet display. So from here, I can adjust pretty much anything on the car. I have quad zone climate control, so I can adjust each side of this in terms of the air vent, temperature, things like that. I have heated and ventilated seats that I can trigger from this tablet. I also have massaging seats on both of these as well. All of that can be done through the tablet. And you maybe notice, I don't want to reach my hand this far. Well, worry not. Bentley has thought of a solution. You push this little eject button here on the tablet and it's going to come out, and then you just take it, and look at that! The tablet removes. And this is not just some generic Samsung or Apple tablet. This thing feels bespoke. It has knurling on the back of it. It is such a premium object. It feels heavy and nice in your hand. And now I've got this whole menu. I can control the media, I can adjust the radio here, I can set a navigation destination, I can literally trigger that flying bee up front, I can raise that up and down from here. I've got the blinds control, so I go ahead and click blinds and I can click open all. Look at that! Now I can let all of the sun in here. We've got the sunroof up front, we've got a sunroof here out back, we've got a sunshade in the rear and sunshades on the doors, all powered. But when you're rich, you don't have to be affected by the sun. So let's go ahead and close those all. There's so much other stuff you can do on here. I think this is so cool. I can adjust the mood lighting. So if the driver has it set to purple and ew, I don't like purple, I can go ahead and set it to a nice red if I so choose. And back here you can see just the intricacy of how nice everything is back here. We've got the air vents, which have these little pulleys. You just push it closed, and that's how you close the air vents, and then you pull it. It's this nice damped valve. Now, this is not a real valve that's closing the air. Bentley just put a dampener in it to make it feel like you're closing a real valve. That's just a little bit of theater that you don't get in a lot of other cars. You can see this beautiful quilting here on the seats as well. We've got vanity mirrors up here where I can check to make sure my hairdo is good. That's going to come in handy a little bit later. And to make sure that you're absolutely relaxed as possible, you've got pillows on the headrests. Oh my God, these are the most comfortable pillows. So let me just put the tablet back in its place. It mounts magnetically. Take a nap, and in a couple minutes I'll show you the trunk because I'm sure you want to see it. But for now, let me just take a nap. And although it might not be a huge consideration when buying a vehicle like this, if you're maybe going summering in Nantucket, you might want to put some suitcases back here. So you just push the little bee here on the flying bee emblem, and that's going to reveal 14.8 cubic feet of storage. Now you can't fold into the back seat or anything like that. Of course, we have those power seats back there, but I think this is a pretty voluminous trunk that you're going to have no problem fitting large suitcases into. Now before we get the Flying Spur out on the road, I've got to talk to you about this engine because it is just so unique. It is what's called a W12 engine, and now you might be used to hearing about inline sixes or flat sixes or even V12s, but a W12 is quite interesting. Basically what you have is a V6 and another V6 mounted like this in a W formation sharing a crankshaft. Now why would they do that? It's very complex, but it basically allows them to package 12 cylinders smaller than they would if it was just in a V formation. And with two turbochargers, this engine produces 626 horsepower. There's also going to be a V8 version coming out next year that produces 542 horsepower, which is still pretty good as well. Now, I love the way this engine looks underneath the bay, and we even have a really cool oil cap as part of the Mulliner driving specification. It really is a special engine, so let's go ahead and get it out on the road to see what it feels like. All right, so now it's time to get the Bentley Flying Spur out on the road, and as you'd expect, wow, what a lovely, lovely experience this is. It is so whisper quiet in here. It is so comfortable. Bentley has really blended such a wonderful combination of sport and luxury here. If you drive a Rolls-Royce, you'll quickly realize that these two cars are not similar. The Bentley does not drive like the Rolls-Royce. The Rolls-Royce has very light steering, it's extremely floaty, and it is really meant to isolate you from the road, whereas the Bentley is more enjoyed from up here as a driver. It's actually really fun to drive. The steering has a really nice weight. The suspension is fantastic. We have a 3-chamber air suspension system here. We've got all-wheel steering, so even though this thing is super long, it can get around the corners pretty well. We also have Bentley's 48-volt anti-roll system, so when you pitch it into a corner, the air suspension can add pressure to that side and prevent the car from really feeling too roly-poly through the bends. And I don't care if you're doing 80 miles an hour or 180 miles an hour, it is so quiet in here. I can just whisper. I don't have to raise my voice at all. And it's amazing how comfortable this is, but you don't expect it to be able to do this. I mentioned this W12 engine up front, so let's go ahead and put it into sport mode. Put my left foot on the brake, right foot on the throttle, and we're gonna do a launch control. Watch this. Ready? Oh my God. Wow. That was 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. Now, this car has all-wheel drive. It's a rear-biased all-wheel drive system, and the power from that massive W12 engine is sent to the wheels through an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission. And it's not just any 8-speed dual clutch. They borrowed this from Porsche. So this is basically PDK, which is probably the best transmission in the world. When you're operating in traffic, it's so smooth, you literally don't even feel the gear shifts. But when you put it in sport mode and you do a launch control like that, oh my goodness, is it savage. Basically, what it just did there was it revved to 4,000 RPM. That is a huge rev limit for a launch control system, and then it lets go of the clutches instantly and you're off. You don't expect it to just shove you in the seat the way it does. That is outstanding performance. I can't believe how quickly this thing gets off the line. That is so impressive. Now, if you opt for the V8 engine, which is new for 2021, you sacrifice a bit on the horsepower and a bit on the 0 to 60. That one does 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, which again isn't exactly a hardship compared to 3.7. You lose a little bit on the top speed too. This W12 will hit 207 miles per hour. The V8 will only do 198, which is still plenty in my book. Now the thing is, this W12 engine is very weird in its sound. There's nothing quite like it. I'm gonna rev it now. It's very grunty. It's not exactly the most sonorous engine out there. I think the V8, Bentley's 4-liter V8 twin turbo, probably sounds a little more growly than this. So if you're a big fan of exhaust note, you might actually want to get that V8 one. It also saves a lot of weight over the front end, making this car a little more agile. So if you really want to drive this car with some sporting intention, the V8 is a good way to save money, and you might actually get a slightly better driver's car out of it as well. But I'm just super impressed with this W12 engine. Most of the time, I'm gonna go ahead and put it back in its default Bentley mode. It is so powerful that if you need to pass, you just plant your foot just a little bit. You don't even go above 2,000 RPM, and the 664 pound-feet of torque just wafts you away. Maybe that's what the W in the engine stands for, waft. It just wafts you away. It's so powerful. And as I mentioned, this 8-speed dual clutch is so quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my foot down, and there we go. Whoa, it shifts instantly. It's amazing how quickly this transmission goes, even when you don't have it in manual mode. And the thing that's so great about this Bentley versus, say, a Rolls-Royce is the old Flying Spur was based on the Volkswagen Phaeton, which is not the best driving car in the world. This new one is based on a similar platform as the Porsche Panamera, which is one of the best driving sedans in the world. This aluminum composite chassis, it might be heavy, but it really gets around the bends well while still being comfortable. You can put it now into comfort mode and it floats over bumps. Now I will say the Rolls-Royce Ghost is a little bit softer, but through a corner a Rolls-Royce just feels like a floppy boat. This does not. So if you are the type of person that actually wants to drive your big comfortable luxury sedan, I think this is definitely the one of the two to get. I'm just so blown away. I kind of expected the Bentley to feel a little bit like a big Audi, and I've heard that the previous generation Flying Spur kind of felt like a big Audi. It was based on a Volkswagen platform, but because this shares so many parts with Porsche, the dual clutch transmission, the Panamera platform, it is so much sportier than you could ever imagine, and it is still so comfortable. Now there are, some downsides to it. It's enormous. It's a little bit difficult to park. I mean, I've been in, Kias with slightly better parking systems than this. Your fuel economy, it's gonna drink fuel. It gets 12 in the city, 19 on the highway, 15 combined. You're lucky if you'll even do that. So there are some downsides, but if you have the money, yes, the Flying Spur does feel special. It feels like an event. I've driven cars like the S-Class, the BMW 7 Series, and all of those. Yes, those are very special cars as well. But if you need to know if this is really worth the premium over those vehicles, I have to say yes. Everything you do in this car, going to get groceries, or what we're about to do with it, it feels special when you do it in a Flying Spur. Now, before I sum up my time with the Flying Spur, I'm sure you're very curious what all of this costs. It is expensive, so get ready for the heartbreak on your wallet here. It's $214,600 to start for the W12 version that we have here. The 2021 Flying Spur will be available with a V8, a little bit less expensive, but don't go thinking it's going to be affordable. It's $196,000. Now, we have the first edition, which is going to be gone after the 2020 model year, so it's $44,735. That's as much as a Toyota Avalon for the first edition specification, but as I showed you, you get some really unique badges on the outside and you get plenty of stuff on the interior that I think kind of justifies that $45,000 price. We've got the name audio system for $8,800, and that Flying Bee mascot is pretty expensive at $4,800, but it looks so awesome that I would definitely do it. The car you see here is an as-tested price of $283,820. It is a dream ride for sure, but as we're about to see, it is the ultimate dream ride. So it is finally time for us to summarize our wonderful time here with the 2020 Bentley Flying Spur. This is such a unique vehicle because it blends luxury and sport so well. It's a magnificent cruiser. You can put people in the back in utter comfort, and if you want to get a lick on, it is so fast and so good to drive with all of those juicy influence pieces from Porsche. A Rolls-Royce might be a little bit softer and more comfortable than this, but it does not drive as well as the Bentley. Now, you can get some other options like the Mercedes Maybach, which has a ton of technology inside, but it's kind of generic looking on the outside, and the interior, while special, does not match up to the level of bespokeness that you get in a vehicle like this. It is absolutely one of the coolest blends of luxury and sport I think I've ever driven. It is an absolute dream vehicle. And I mentioned dream vehicle for a very specific reason. I've kept you waiting long enough. The real reason why I've booked a Flying Spur specifically this week is because we are going to use this car for a very special event. I am going to be driving the wedding car at a family friend's wedding. Now let's cut over to that. All right, so I've been teasing it all video long, but the day has finally come. I have brought the Bentley to a close family friend's wedding, and I am going to be the wedding car, giving the bride and groom their first ride together as husband and wife. And what better way to make it a fairy tale wedding than with the Bentley Flying Spur? I'm dressed for the occasion. Social distancing is being upheld. There's just one more thing missing. I've got it. Now let's get the bride and groom in the Bentley.